I think it's a safe bet that way more kids and teenagers now are Beatles fans than young people in the 80s and 90s and even most of the 2000s were. There's probably a few reasons for that. The main one to me is just the explosion of YouTube and social media and technology in the last 10 years that makes sharing things so much easier than it ever was before. Uh, Maybe the Rock Band games helped a little bit too. Could be that it's now the grandparents' time, so to kids in recent years, it's like, hey, my grandpa was a cool hippie back in 1967, so Sergeant Pepper could have that connection that it wouldn't have had generations before. And they're also like, they could be a really good modern indie band because they were so far ahead of their time in so many ways. I mean, all the praise that's been written about them over the years is just as deserved as it ever was. I mean, they're experimental, they did so many musical styles, and this isn't even music history, it's just history, period. I mean, they changed the social landscape, the political landscape, they had an influence on the world. I mean, the world literally wouldn't be the same without them. Um, like another thing to consider is kids today are just, no matter what anyone says, I really think kids today are smarter as a whole than a lot of us kids in the 80s and 90s were. I mean, I can honestly remember the reactions that I would get when I would tell people that I was a Beatles fan back in 1994, 97, or 98, or whatever it was. I mean, a lot of my generation were just a bunch of fucking douchebags, like the gangster rappers and shit. And to me, this starts to really change over around the tail end millennials, about people that were like born in the mid 90s and up. Because even most millennials seem aligned with generations before, and that they tended to prefer what was popular when they were in middle school or high school. It seems to be people that are like in their early 20s and younger that tend to really dig stuff from way before they were born too. And good for them.